have technical schools all over the country. We have already opened some, but here we face one problem, and that's more teachers. We have a teacher shortage because we traditionally didn't have many people in this line. But there is a change. You know, when we started in 2009, President Governor Sheikh Hasina, there was only 1% of the students in technical schools of all the students in the country. Now, as of today, it's 9%. So over 8 years, we have brought it down to 9-10%. In the next 5 years, our target is to reach 20%. So that way, we are trying to, bring in people into this line.
Now, you delivered a speech, to move on now, last year at the Oxford University on Water Security Conference. On the issue of water security in Bangladesh, whilst you asserted that food insecurity was not such a major problem, I think your comments were that at least most people can obtain access to rice and vegetables. So I think I don't know if the World Bank will totally agree with you there, but anyway, you said that the key problem was access to clean drinking water, that there was a shortage of clean available water across the country as a whole. But these require substantial infrastructure changes, surely. What is the immediate impact of the water inaccessibility, and what plans do you have to improve the delivery?
Okay. Yeah. There's an area, there's an issue close to my heart. I'm a rural man myself. I grew up in a rural area where there was tremendous shortage of water. When I was a little kid, I remember, there was no fresh water available. We would drink out of ponds and rivers, which are very unsafe. Now people won't dream of doing it in Bangladesh. Things have changed. But again, we don't have enough supplies. Yes, I stand by my statement earlier that we are not that short of food as we were 20 or 30 years before. We almost covered the gap. We are, what they say, autarky or self-sufficient. We have reached that level. In terms of vegetables and fish, which are our basic needs, that also we have quite adequate at this moment. Yes, drinking water. I still say today with full complete authority, because I represent an area in the rural Bangladesh, which is what we call swampy land. There is no electricity in most cases still. There are areas which is out of power, and there you can supply water from, tanks, overhead tanks, other things. So what we go for is hand pumps, what we call tube wells in my country. We put in pipes 600-700 feet underground, and then with hand, we sort of pump out water. This is very clean water. We have not covered everywhere. Nowadays, we have about one pump for about 100 people. We would like to bring it down to the level of 50. So we have a huge gap. Still, our government is working full-time. NGOs are working. We are getting good support from some overseas intergovernmental agencies also. So I stand by what I said, that our real need at this moment for the rural poor, having a full stomach with rice and vegetables, quote-unquote, we need fresh water. That's absolutely must, because with that, we can eliminate a lot of, those stomach diseases, typhoids and diarrhea, these sort of things.
Now, we need to, of course, to add to this the effects broadly of climate change, and in particular, the impact of saltwater intrusion as a result of flooding. Bangladesh is one of the most vulnerable countries in the world to SLR, with 2/3 of its land area less than 5 metres above the sea level. It is predicted that over 90% of fresh river water will become unusable for dry season agriculture in major agricultural districts across Bangladesh. It sounds apocalyptic. The country's climate scientists and politicians now all agree that by the year 2050, rising sea levels will inundate some 17% of the land and displace about 18 million people. What is the government doing to avert what sounds like a major catastrophe, given especially that agriculture is one of the single largest employment areas in Bangladesh?
Okay, it's catastrophic. Apocalyptic, as you've said. It's a global issue. It's no use blaming here. We don't do this. No one probably does it consciously. But rich societies, they have their ways. They exude a lot of carbons in the air, and those greenhouse effects and all those sort of things. That's one thing about climate. Now, being on the seaside is where we are born. We have to live there. So if the global the climate change happens and the water table goes up, we lose much of our land in the coastal sides. Now, these are very serious issues. Our country, by ourselves, we can't undertake massive protective works there to protect our coastal areas from the coastal saline intrusion and all that. We need support globally. We are in talks with some advanced countries. We are trying to borrow We are trying to borrow technology, which is much more important than money itself, because fortunately, our society now generates quite a bit of money also ourselves. But we need technological support. Above all, we need a global understanding and a global consensus that this is a human society issue as a whole, affecting the human society as a whole, and we have to face it totally. And
many scientists have said that the Bangladeshi government, your government, short-term actions are making matters worse. They say that much of the Bangladesh government, what you're doing is to stave off the coming deluge, raising levees, dredging canals, pumping water, deepens, they say, the threat of inundation in the long term, and that as many as 50 million Bangladeshis will flee the country by 2050 if the sea levels rise as expected. Do you agree with that analysis?
No, it's a very strange thing. I can see what they're trying to say. You are promised a big round of cake tomorrow, but today you are hungry. What do? Don't you go out and eat something which gives you immediate nourishment? Ours is a case like that. We have to bring up these levees, we have to bring up the dikes, we have to have a sort of embankments here and there, which they say can, disturb the whole balance and maybe do harm in the future. But what do you do here? Today, if I don't have the embankments here, our whole community goes underwater. Our crops are lost. So what do? We take an immediate measure, but at the same time, we are awake. We know that we have to do something in the long run. For the long run, we need more incomes, more money, more technology. In the short run, we have to live by whatever we have in our hand. So it's a combination of both.
Now, the effects of climate change have led to some people with a sense of outrage in developing nations. Many of those have contributed little to the pollution, like Bangladesh, believe that they should receive some sort of compensation for this. Tariq A. Karim, Bangladesh's ambassador to India, is quoted in the New York Times article as saying, and I'm going to quote him, "We need a regional and better yet, a global solution." More or less what you were just saying. And if we don't get one soon, Bangladesh's people will soon become the world's problem because we will not be able to keep them. Is there any mechanism that will allow Bangladesh and other developing countries to obtain compensation or financial support even from the developed and the polluting world?
Right. We have a two-pronged strategy here. Global, of course, is a larger issue which would do to the UN and other systems. But immediately today, we have to come to understanding with our neighbors. Very large neighbor, India, from where we get almost all our river waters. Almost all rivers flow in from there. So I'm talking to them, talking to the Chinese, to the Nepalese, but more to the Indians, to see that the common rivers that we share, we are down below. The last flush is with us. So you talk to them, and we do sort of work on the rivers together so that not harm them or not harm us.
The centre of my question was essentially whether or not the countries that are causing the most pollution, the United States, I mean, I probably have to reflect on the comments made by Donald Trump, but the United States, who are a major contributor to climate pollution, is there any mechanism for you to seek some sort of compensation from them and support on these issues?
No, there have been conferences on that. Unfortunately, US has, all along, there has been a very strong line of thinking in the US that this is not an issue. And they think probably even if it's an issue, this is something which, if it addressed in the way that we would like to, probably harm their living standards, lower their... these are matters for them to think and, What we're trying to say is that this is a global issue. We know countries like ours, other poor countries in our area, we hardly contribute anything to this pollution. But we are victim of it because there are no borders for the environment. So we have to come down to a level that we sit and talk together and not be led by emotions and short-term gains for individual countries so that the others die and I manage at a higher level. That kind of a short-term attitude we will not do. We are talking, although sometimes we feel frustrated, we feel angry sometimes, bitter, but we know that there is no alternative. We have to keep talking and find a way out.
Now, against this backdrop of doom and gloom, in recent years, Bangladesh's economy has grown at a consistent rate of more than 6%. I think you were making that point earlier, making it one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Today, the Bangladesh economy stands at about $180 billion. According to the World Bank, that's expected to rise to 322 billion by 2021. But between 2000 and 2010, the number of poor in Bangladesh has dropped from 26% to 47 million today, down from 40% a decade ago.
Okay.
Now, the World Bank reports that labour income has risen while birth rates have dropped, leading to lower dependency ratios and higher per capita income. All very positive signals. The World Bank has even ranked Bangladesh as a lower middle income nation for the first time. Okay. Aren't you worried that these climate change issues will destroy this meteoric rise in the economy?
Absolutely, we are worried. We think about it. But at the same time, we have to think there is an alternative. There is no place we can go to outside this world. So we work our fields, we work our roads, and we also look up to God and look up to the society as a whole, look up to the global community that we will have better sons. And there are ways. We have the technology. There are scientists, there are engineers who have the answers to this. So what is needed is that Bangladesh should do its bit. Bangladesh would not like to disturb the apple cart. We'd go along with the global society and find ways, because at the end of the day, we all go sing together or live together. That's the way.
On that profound note, Minister, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much for joining me on Islam Channel.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks to Islam Channel for having me.